The next biggest winner is brought to you in part by welcome back to the roundtable portion of our show. Back with us are John Carlesso of Oremex Silver and Ted Manziaris of Edgefront Realty. Gentlemen, what I want to talk about with both of you here is the macro environment, how it impacts both of your businesses, because obviously you're both in industries that do have global exposure. So, Ted, let's start with you. You've got a world out there that's chasing yield, and it seems like it's becoming there are less and less safer places to put their money. Mm-hmm. How do you view the competition coming into Canada eventually, and is that how much is that going to help your business in the long run in terms of driving real estate prices?
Well, I think that from a macro point of view, I mean, it also, we're looking down in the U.S. as well. So. I see the real estate market improving in the United States.
Right.
We're seeing places like New York, Washington, the big markets there, the markets really come back. Even Miami is really hot. Because we focus on secondary markets, we're looking at even properties down in secondary markets in the U.S. I think that real estate prices are on the uptick. And I still see that there's some pretty good yields to be made down in the U.S. In terms of Canada, with more money coming in here, obviously there's going to be a lot more competition. And it's also a function of interest rates. If you want to talk about macro, the interest rates is going to drive everything here. I think interest rates are going to stay low for the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, the Fed said 2015, I think 2018. And
I agree.
And I think that's the only thing that's driving the economy right now. And you're seeing, great corporate earnings because of that. You're seeing the stock markets at all-times high because of that. And also, the U.S. and Canada is perceived as a very, very safe place compared to Europe, Asia, where there's a lot more volatility right now. So you're seeing more and more money coming into the market.
Interesting that you talked about interest rates, how that dovetails into silver. Low interest rates typically creates inflation, which makes many investors run towards precious metals. So do you share that interest rate theory? And if not, if not, how are the macro markets impacting the future of silver?
Yeah, I think, when we were speaking earlier, George, I mentioned about the short-term, one may say illogical behavior, and I was relating that to that relationship specifically, in fact.
Right.
Longer term, I think that's going to have an impact. There's likely some skepticism, I think, about how much longer rates will stay low, how much longer central banks can keep rates low. That'll be a key element going forward. I think Ted brought up something interesting there as well about that really relates to public markets. Jurisdiction is becoming increasingly important, not just in terms of country risk. Canada has performed incredibly well as an economy, but I think as importantly, and you might argue more importantly, the jurisdictional risk around things like rule of law, certainty around government policy, whether it's in the resource industry or not, and that extends, I think, to companies that are listed in Canada, have a certain appeal to international investors in that they know what they're getting. They know what the listing standards are. They know what the liquidity is going to be like. They know what the reporting requirements and regulations are. So that's also an element that I think lends very well to the stability that Canada has demonstrated.
One matter on jurisdiction, specifically Oremex. You're very focused in Mexico.
Entirely focused.
So we can talk a little bit about that. How great of a place is Mexico to be doing business? Because sometimes you hear on the tourism side that people are getting into trouble there and there's certain danger, but from a business point of view, what's it like doing business in Mexico and the proximity to Canada and the U.S.? There's
certainly, the free trade agreement that Canada has with Mexico encompasses a number of industries. You've seen, I think, it extend from banking to auto manufacturing to other very specialized industries as well. So that's certainly many companies see Mexico as a country as an interesting destination to house their manufacturing operations, and some benefits to that, given that it's on the same continent, in the same time zone roughly. That makes it relatively easy. Mexico for a long time has been well recognized for its potential in the resource industry. So the mining industry in Mexico is a known quantity for the most part, and it's a relatively straightforward place to operate.
If you're not going to be in Canada, United States, next best thing, Mexico, I guess, right?
It's close. It's easy to get there. Yeah.
We should get you buying real estate property in Mexico. and you're being a little modest, too, because at the end of the day, you're a board member of Edgefront Realty, and you're a co-founder of Turtle Island Recycling Company, a very big, successful recycling company in this country that was recently purchased by GFL. So
yeah, which I'm pleased to still be part of GFL as well. It's a great company. It's probably the third largest waste and recycling company in Canada now, with over $500 million in sales. They bought us last year, Turtle Island. We were, about $100 million a year company. But my background has always been in real estate. Even though I was a dedicated recycler and environmentalist, I also started a company which is now the largest brokerage firm in Canada called Right at Home Realty. We have over 3,000 agents, and it's very successful. So I think that's why they kind of wanted me to be on the board, more for my real estate than for my environmental background.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. We're running out of time, but both of you bring fantastic perspective to local markets, international markets, and I think it's been a big benefit to everyone at home. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, George.
Thanks.
The show's over, but your work is just beginning. If you think you may have found the next biggest winner tonight, take the time to learn more about each company by visiting their websites, and make sure to speak to your financial advisor. If you want to get interactive, find us on Twitter at NextBiggest, or get to Agoracom, talk about these companies with fellow shareholders. Be sure to join us next week with 3 more great companies. I'm George Scholz, wishing you a good night from all of us at the Next Biggest Winner.
Thank you
so much.